Locked.
Hello there, and welcome back to the ClueCon Weekly Studio, where I'm delighted this week to have Jöran Vinzens from sipgate in Germany. Good morning, or good afternoon, or whenever people are watching this. Good day to you, Jöran. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Good day to you too, and all who listen that or watch that later on.
Excellent. It's good to see you here. And Jöran, I've known you for a good long time. You come from a company called sipgate in Germany. And as a younger Asterisk person, when my hair wasn't quite so grey, I remember using sipgate numbers to hook up to Asterisk back in the early 2000s. And more recently, we've crossed paths on a number of occasions at various shows, Kamailio World, a conference event, and of course Astricon, where you've been a seasoned speaker at Astricon. In fact, how many Astricons have you spoken at, Jöran?
I held 6 talks in 5 Astricons.
Oh, very good. A nice record there. Now, for those people watching that have not met Jöran Vinzens before, can you give us a little bit of a background of your career and the lead up to how you've come to work for sipgate and then into what you currently do at sipgate, please?
Sure. I started my work life in 2000, so it's a long time I've been in there now. And I started back in the days at Siemens. I think everybody knows Siemens. It's a quite old German company, and I started there in the phone sector, so I'm still in the phone sector. But back in the days, there were no SIP or IP phone, blah, blah, blah. So it started with ISDN and analog lines. And I started there building up small PBXs at on-site with customers. And in 2004, I had the chance to visit the headquarter in Munich, in Germany, and become a part of the development for SIP phones. I would say I got lucky there, and I got the chance to have a brief look in SIP and interconnecting with other PBXs. And back in the days, I started testing Siemens SIP phones on Cilantro and Broadcom and all these old big heavy block PBXs. And then we started to see something like Asterisk back in 2005, I think it was. So a very early stage of VoIP phone open source softwares. And so we started to have these as a standard PBX to test with the Siemens phones with. So I did that quite a long time. And in 2011, I got rid of Munich. So I need a change and got back to Cologne. And I had a look for a new employer. So I had a look what's in Cologne and around, and I found sipgate. I have used sipgate before to test phones. Not really as a customer, but as a service provider offering phone systems like any other in the world. So I wrote my application there, and they hired me. So since 2011, I'm with sipgate now. First, there I started in a team mainly responsible for operations of the SIP core, and there we use Kamailio, Yate, and Asterisk. I would say 4 years ago, something like that, I'm more in developing stuff and not so operations anymore. Still heavy focus on operations, because you can't develop SIP applications without having a focus on the production system. So then I got into ARI stuff of the Asterisk, and this is about the time we met first. It was 2015. You visited our office back in the days with Matt Jordan. He gave a talk at one of our events called Lindus. And from there, I got stuck with you guys. So it's not too bad. so I'm now in this open source world, and try to spread what I know and try to figure out what others think about what we do, and try to get some feedback from what we do.
Good stuff.
Now I'm here.
Yeah, excellent. And I'm sure people will have guessed by now that you are located in Germany. But just for the record, whereabouts are you at the moment?
We are 180 people in Düsseldorf, all in Düsseldorf.
In Düsseldorf, and you said SIPgate's 180 people.
Yeah,
that's a good number of a company there, and you're effectively a hosted provider. And do you still do SIP trunks for people as well?
Yeah, sure. We offer services for residential and business customers. For business customers, we have hosted PBX. Whatever a PBX should do, and as well as trunking connections for whatever you have in the basement. So as long as it speaks SIP, you could connect it most likely. So even there are adapters for Microsoft PBX's Skype for Business Cloud. I think it's called whatever. I don't know Microsoft very well. So yeah, we have trunking. In Germany, we are a virtual mobile operator as well. So we offer SIM cards and eSIMs for our customers. So it's quite a good combination having mobile phone services together with a PBX. So it's a kind of native integration of the SIM cards in the PBX we offer.
Great, good to hear that. Now, you said you've got 180 people, and I'm expecting that in common with lots of people in Europe and very many other places in the world, you've gone through significant change recently, and I would imagine it's a bit of a challenge. Tell us about what's been going on.
So before March of this year, we had no one working from home. So everyone was in the office, and we have kind of rituals we have every day. We have breakfast, we have lunch in the middle of the day. We highly connected on the floor. So if I go over the floor, I meet people and talk with them and talk about problems they have and I have, and we try to solve that way, not the long way.
Can I jump in for a minute? Because as you know, I visited you in Düsseldorf and been to your splendid building there. And SIPgate is a very, very highly collaborative company. As Jöran mentioned, it's not uncommon for groups to have breakfast together there in their very nice dining facilities, and lunch, and sometimes people stay after work and have a beer together. In fact, there's some very, very well-stocked beer fridges in the dining area. And so, yes, I just wanted to set that context that you're a very highly collaborative company doing lots of things together.
Yeah. And if it comes to the actual work we do, we have a framework developed with us. So we use an agile environment. In the main thing we use Scrum and Kanban as an agile tool for developing. And we got to a point where no one of us is doing code or writing code by himself or herself. So what we do is we are doing pair programming or sometimes mob programming. So pair is just two people, and mob is for sure a mob more than two.
Right.
So we have sitting a couple of people around the table, all looking to the same screen.
And this is all within an agile environment.
Right. So it's a project structure we use within our company. And for the pair programming, we have one big TV in front of all of us, and one is typing and the other are thinking and telling the guy who's typing what to do. So this is quite easy for us to develop code and good code and keep the quality quite high, just because not only one person is looking at code, it's always more than one person. If it's an important and new step, it's more than two. So with this mechanism, we guaranteed that we don't waste time in just going in the wrong direction. We do daily stand-ups in the morning where all come together to our Scrum board or Kanban board, and everything. Everybody is talking about what we did yesterday and what we are doing today, and what are the problems and what should we work on and stuff. And we have an analog board, so it's a whiteboard, a big whiteboard with lots of stickies on that. For sure, we use some tools like Trello and other to have it in a digital form, but the actual work is done manually with stickies on the board. So this is our daily routine. Getting up in the morning to stand up and discussing what's on for the day. This said, we had this crisis coming up, I would say. And so far, no one had any idea how to work remote and doing remote pairing or mobbing or whatever. How do you do a demo with 180 people on a remote site? So it's nearly impossible. We have our product strategy is done in the company. We have a strategy board, all meet in front of the strategy board just to discuss the strategy of the company and what's the state of the current project we are working on, so on. And all of this has to be done from one day to another remotely. So it was kind of, we were, it was kind of a challenge. But since we worked a long time in an agile environment, I think we got used to adapt to situations we are not used to. So I think the past helps us to adapt to this situation as well.
Right.
And from there on, from one day to another, I didn't stand up in the morning, take a shower, drive to the office, and start working. I skipped the start to the office part and stay at home. And all the other 180 people did the same. And so we needed some tools to connect each other. We started, so we were using Slack before. I think everybody knows Slack. It's a good communication way for many people, and it's a chat-based, I would say, program. You can have it on your phone, you can have it in the browser, whatever. You can install a tool on your desktop, and you can have conversations on there through video camera, so you can make calls over there and watch one another. And as well, we are using Google Mail for the entire company because we don't know how to do mail, so we let Google this do for us. So we also have Google Meet. And in Google Meet, you have the possibility to make video conferences with some people. So we started doing this, using Google Meet for all these smaller meetings we have, which is great to a certain point. So if you are more than, I would say, 20 people in a video conference, you can't see anymore everybody, or you have very small tiles on your screen. And it becomes a nightmare when you want to say something. So many people are in there, don't muting their microphone if they're not speaking, and. We starting using Google Meet for pair programming as well. So we meet in the normal pairs we had and started screen sharing. So it's good. So I can see what's on the screen of the other person or in the tab or whatever in the program of the other person. But it's made for video. So I can see people on there, but it's not always the sharpest picture, and it's sometimes blurry depending on the bandwidth. Google goes down with the resolution, so from time to time I see nothing or just some pixels. And looking at an IDE, especially if you're scrolling through an IDE, having code in there, it's just a blurry picture going by. You don't see nothing, you can't help, you can't see anything. And
just Jöran, before we carry on, which IDEs do you tend to use?
We use, I think all of you just now use IntelliJ. So it's based on Eclipse, I think. It's very good to develop in Java or Java-like languages. And most of the time we are doing Java. So it's quite easy for us to have everything in there. I tend to do all the Ansible or Bash stuff in my shell, so I still use Vim. It's quite
Vim.
good. Quite good to know how to exit Vim in the first place. Yeah, but
just one other question before you carry on, and that is, you said SIPgate was 180 people. How many? And obviously, you need to collaborate with lots of different people on different things. But how many of those people are kind of active software developers? Would you say?
I would say something about 60 people.
Right.
In
so
it's not all software developers. So we have operations people and the classic administrative part, but they're doing the same. So they use an IDE, they have pair programming or more programming, so they don't do stuff alone as well. So they stuck with the same problem. So it's about 60 people. And from time to time with our customer support, it's easy to come by and look on the screen, just show me what you did, something like that. It's the same. If I got a request, or I recently got a request from one of our customer support, they asked for help, and I sure I can do that, but I probably better guide you the way through, so next time you see it yourself. So he shared his screen, and I looked what he's done, and I told him where to click and what to enter where, and hopefully he asked me a couple of times more, but then he knows. So
So you were saying there that you were using Google Meetings, and this was working okay when there was a couple of you, even using an IDE. But then I think you're about to move on to tell us more of that story.
Yeah. Then we are all tech guys, right? So we thought about security and privacy and stuff. And Google is not famous about privacy. So they're collecting data, and I'm sure they're recording everything and checking everything, whatever. They aren't Google if they would not do that. So this in mind, there are more sensitive meetings we don't want to share with Google. So we got our first steps in Jitsi. I highly recommend everybody use Jitsi instead of Meet. It's as good as Google for a couple of people. If you get more, it's a bit difficult because you need very high CPU power in the machine just to render all the pictures. But for a couple of people, I would say something like 10. A single node instance is quite good enough to handle that. As well, Jitsi very early got an update that you can play some music in, or you can share your system's audio with the other people, which is not able with Google. So there again, we have a benefit over Google. The tile view of Jitsi is better than it was on Meet, but Google just kind of fixed that. We are kind of having everything at the moment. So we're using Jitsi. Some people or some pairs using Jitsi. Some pairs using, or some conferences are done in Google Meet. But there are some requirements for software development which you cannot fulfill with Meet or Jitsi or whatever. And there we got to the gaming industry. The gaming industry has, if you think about Twitch, we want to share full HD video with 60 frames a second in high resolution without compressing the picture around the globe, and a lot of people should consume this picture. So it is pretty much the same what we want to do, but Twitch is too big. And Twitch is a nightmare full of bloat we don't need. So we got the first thing we touched is Discord. Discord is a tool for gamer as well. You can have voice channels, so we can talk to each other just using a microphone. You can share your video, so you have again something kind of video conference with the others, but you don't need to. And you can share your screen in full HD, 60 frames a second, so you can scroll effectively through an IDE without losing the contrast or the track of the picture. If I'm the remote side, I can read while someone else is scrolling through code. And this is so good and such a relief that we got finally a tool we can use. Because normally I see it on a screen, on a big screen on the desk, and I can say, okay, just hold on there. I just see with my eyes scrolling through the window, that line we need to fix, something like that. But it's not possible if it's just blurred out. So I can read, so I can't help in this case. But with Discord, it's possible. So gaming industry to the rescue for us. Now we have a tool we can use for pairing or mobbing, and it's quite good fun. As well, we figured out we have an routine. It's called a demo. It's a Scrum artifact. Normally, you present your customer what you did in the last sprint, and if for the customer, it's kind of an acceptance part, and the customer can give feedback if the produced work is what they are thinking it should look like. We use it internally, so it's quite heavy as a remote or as a cloud service provider to show all of our customers in a demo what we've did in the last 2 weeks. And sometimes we don't want to do that because it's internal and it's a bit of classified or something like that. So we do it internally, but to get 180 people in a video conference is quite impossible. So it's just too big. So we got with Meet again, Google Meet. So we have the people who want to say something during that meeting just share the meeting, the video conference part, right. And it's shared through YouTube throughout the other people. So we get a link, we can get in there, we can have a look what other people have to say, and in the same time we have a chat going on in Slack. So I have two windows open. One is the video, one is the Slack part, and the last. So it's about 20 minutes around. It should be less, but it's always a bit over time. So I think the last demo was about 20 minutes. And in these 20 minutes last time, we got about 800 chat messages in the Slack channel for that. So people freaking out there. So right. Tons of smileys and yeah.
And if somebody is a streaming recipient on YouTube, so they're not an active part of the conference, and they see it going on, but maybe they go, oh, I want to make a point. Are they able to jump over and jump onto the Google Meet? But that's restricted from the start.
No, it's not restricted. So everybody could share. The link is shared through the invitation. So you can just go in the invitation. But so far it never happened. So right, it's not I guess that often we did that now. But that's it.
I guess Slack is good enough to raise the points because the people in the conference who are participating and getting streamed can see the comments coming back in Slack.
Yeah. If they follow Slack, I think it's quite disturbing if you try to make a point in following this load of chat messages all the time. So I wouldn't read it if I would say something because I just got track of what I'm going to say just by reading stuff.
Yeah, in fact, that's often a kind of a separate job, isn't it? That somebody is reading the Slack and then passing through stuff that needs to be passed through. Oh, very interesting times. So it sounds now as if you have kind of settled on a collection of tools that you're happy using.
Yeah, we have a couple of tools. For example, for drawing stuff, we use Miro. It's an online whiteboard tool you can draw in there. I think there are a couple of other tools used by the company for different purposes. I think if the current plan is that we stay this way quite a long time now, just we have no need to go back in the company, and if we don't have to, we shouldn't, right? So we will come up with some other good tricks how to make it better and make it more, make it more efficient and more native to use. So it's not the end.
I'm seeing that people are kind of transitioning in their minds from right, this is just something we're doing for a month or 6 weeks until we go back to the office, to, well, actually, we're not sure, it's a little bit open-ended. And so we've now got to, rather than treating this as a temporary measure, optimize it so that this can be our continued way of working.
Yeah, especially in our case, we have a quite large office in Düsseldorf, but we try to grow a bit. And there's not many space left or much space left in the office.
Right.
So if we can, when we figure out ways how to work remotely quite efficiently, we could use it for the future as well. So probably some teams stay at home, doing their job from there, making a more flexible office in Düsseldorf. And with the ritual, we have this Open Friday and the demo, and normally we have lots of meeting on Mondays. Probably we will meet everybody in the office again, and stays a couple of times home for the week. Probably this might be a solution for the future to grow bigger than what the offices could hold. So I think we will learn from that experience right now, especially of what we really need. So do we need really a whiteboard? No, we don't. Do we really need to face each other every day? Probably not. I don't know. But what I've figured out is during this time so far, so it's 6 weeks, 7 weeks now, I miss the people. I really miss the people. There are lots of people in the company I don't work with them very often, or I don't work at all with them. But still in the breaks or something, some in-between time, we share some time and have a conversation and have a laugh, or afterwards in the evening, as you said, we have good stuffed refrigerators in our kitchen. So having a beer in the afternoon, it's not happening at the moment, and this is a bit I really miss. So this is not possible in a good way on remote.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's been very interesting hearing you talk about the transition, because I know, having been to sipgate HQ, that everybody is very collaborative in an excellent way. But what was interesting is, as you're explaining the progress, I was thinking, of course, that the free switch team that started off in 2004 or 5 developing free switch have always done that remotely, because they were geographically dispersed across the US. And so they'd been working remotely for about 15 years when all this started. And of course, that turned into the Signal Wire team as well. And so within Signal Wire, we have our own video collaboration that's been created within there, and is also available for developers to use. But we do have those kind of water cooler experiences, because part of the work, and I agree that it doesn't perfectly replicate meeting face to face, because there's something special about that. But when you're all sat in a conference, say your team of 10 people is sat in a conference in one browser tab, but they're maybe working on a document or doing some code in another browser tab, you can still see them, and then you can go, "Hey, Brian," and Brian unmutes and comes along, and you can have those kind of water cooler chats. So very, very interesting. And you also naturally progressed on what I was going to ask you next, which was about the future and how you saw that developing. So thank you for doing that. My last question really is, of course, you yourselves are serving a bunch of customers that might be hosted PBX or SIP trunk. So how has that part of your business changed, having to cope with customers that are now remote from their offices?
So we see that in a different way than we normally do. Sure, we have a shitload of to do right now because of new customers. So everybody now facing the situation that their big PBX, their big black box steel giant in the basement, is not fulfilling the remote working situation, and they need something else. So they go to all these cloud carriers there are on the market, and luckily for us, to us as well. So we have lots of customers coming to us right now. But I guess, so it's my personal opinion, if this cools down a bit and people go back to the office again, they will cancel the contract with us because they already have a PBX in the basement. But even though I think on the long run, at some point, the big heavy block PBX in the basement will fail. And at that moment, hopefully, they remember there was sipgate or whatever company in the cloud. They work quite well, and they didn't have the problem with the localization. Yes. So they are not located in the basement. They are located in the world because of internet. As well, we have businesses going bankrupt at the moment because they have no income. So there are special rules in Germany to protect those companies. But I think there are quite a lot of companies not surviving this situation. And we lose them for sure, like any other companies losing them too. So at the moment, it's beneficial for us. But I think on the long run, it doesn't matter. So probably more people will remember or will remind that remote working is possible, and you need to adapt to that. And these bare metal machines in the basement is not the solution for that. But using a cloud provider for that is a solution. Then it's a question: what are you doing? What's your business? If your business is quite critical to privacy and stuff, you don't want to do that on a cloud-based system. And so then we are out again. Just for this situation, in the meantime, it's maybe good enough, but for the long run, it is not. So we will. I have no prognosis for that, so I just don't know. But I think for us, we will gain more than we lose in the long run, especially for those having the choice between one more bare metal machine in the basement or cloud PBX in, 5 years, something like that. Probably they will remember that there is something on the market for that. And hopefully we win the race again against our competitors, because we are not alone on the market. There are a couple of others on the market doing the same what we do.
Indeed, yes, there's a number of hosted providers out there. I think in the UK, they're finding that people are making like a full-on transition to hosted, because maybe their on-premise PBX is at the end of its maintenance contract or something like that, and maybe they've been considering going to hosted, but this latest thing is something that just pushed them over the edge. But yeah, every company is different, and you can imagine that if you have got a PBX in the basement that's got 500 handsets on it, that's a considerable expense to replace in a hosted way. Well, Jöran, it's been great having you on. Thank you for dropping by into the ClueCon Weekly studio. Is there anything else you'd like to talk before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I don't know. If you have any questions, just get in contact with me. If you have any special question, I'm on LinkedIn. Just give me a chat or invitation, and I'm happy to clarify everything. So
that's very kind. Thank you, Jöran. I can see your email address is at the bottom there, and I do know that both you personally and sipgate as a company are very, very open source friendly and very much wanting to contribute to the good of the community, and that's excellent. So thank you very much for coming along.
You're welcome.
And hope I get to see you at a live event before too long.
Yeah, definitely. I got rid of staying at home. Really, I am.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.
You're welcome. Bye.